Hello everyone. Welcome to the first of several instructional videos designed to assist you in setting up your music tech classes on the server in your Mac labs. To begin the process, we will first gather student information by requesting class lists from your registrar in the form of a spreadsheet. Then we will transfer this information into a template spreadsheet that will be imported into the workgroup manager on the Mac server in your lab. It will contain information vital to each student for logging on, opening the SharePoint or that folder on your desktop where assignments are given and turned in, and accessing their home directory on the server where they can store files as well. And finally, we will save this spreadsheet as a CSV or comma-separated values file to your server. This format can be imported into Workgroup Manager and ultimately allow us to set up these classes. So we're going to go through each step and let's begin. So to start things off, since we're going to be using spreadsheets to do all of this, you're going to need Excel on your computer to create them, import them, and to manipulate them. If you don't have this on your Mac, you might want to use your PC and then move the files over to the server. If you'd like to use your Mac, you might consider going and downloading a free spreadsheet program. One of the best is at www.openoffice.org. When you go there, you'll find it's an open source Office suite that contains a spreadsheet program that you can use to do this. You can download it and use it for free. You would simply go to I want to open OpenOffice or download OpenOffice, and then simply download the program and install it on your Mac. And you can save, you can manipulate and edit, and you can do everything you can do with Excel, and even save it in Excel format. Best of all, it's free. We'll start off with the class list that you should have received from your registrar in the form of a spreadsheet. On this list, you would want to request certain information, namely the first name of each student, the last name, student number, and class. Now, it needs to be said here that I use the student number as their password when they log on to the server, so that's why I need that information. And I put the classes in here, whichever period actually that they have my class. I like to put that in order and sort the students by last name within each class, just so that once I import the information is much easier to deal with on the server. The next step is to open up this student import template. You'll find this in our collaboration folder, and I'll also forward it to anyone that needs it. And this template is set up with specific information that we're going to import ultimately into the server. It goes by columns. The first column I put do not import, mainly because this column needs a slug content. In other words, it will never be imported, and Workgroup Manager will not import that anyway. So we're going to leave column A as do not import. Then there's, again, to match the other file, we have first name, last name. Now there are a couple here that I'm going to figure. Real name is how the computer or how the server will ultimately recognize each student. And then a short name is how they can actually log on. It gives them a short version of their name so that they can just use it as their ID. There's a password, which will come off of the student number that we have before. And then we have two additional columns here that need to be imported that give them certain information, which I'll cover. So I'm going to first go back up to the student info file that I received, and I'm going to move this information into the template. I'm going to grab the first name of the first one, and then I'm going to hit shift. I'm going to shift click down all the way through the range of information that I want, which is all of first and last name. I'm going to Command C or copy it. I'm going to go to the very beginning of first name, and I'm going to Command V and paste it. You'll notice that first and last name appear all the way down, and you see all of them stay in the same order that I had here. I actually had arranged it by class before I copied it and moved it. You'll also notice that some other information appears right after that. Under real name, I've actually included a formula, and I'll click on that in D2. If the name was Jane Doe, I create a formula that basically just took the cell contents and created a text string using the last name and then the first name. No commas, no spaces. Just a real quick way to be recognized, and it makes sense to me. Under short name, I took a similar formula, except instead of using the entire first name, I just used the entire last name with the first initial. From here, I will then go back up to my student information, and I'm going to click on the first student number, and then shift click again on the second, copy that information, go to password, click it there, and paste it down that one. I do need to make sure everything kind of matches up. I want to make sure that everything was done in the same order. If I go, apparently Jenny, her number is, and I guess forever shall be, 8675309. So I've got her in there, and it does match up, so I can assume that the rest of the information matches up as well. So now that I've moved all the information I need, again, I'm not using the class in this one now. You only used it to organize the information before I copied it over. I go back to column A, the do not import, and I'm just going to copy that text all the way to the bottom end of all of my records. So I'm going to grab the bottom corner, pull it down, and it copies that all the way down. Now, this starts to become a real issue. I've only got 10 students here that I have actually imported. You're probably going to have anywhere between 30 up to maybe even as many as 100 records, and so it becomes real important that you get your information in very organized and figure out a way to get this over. You can type in your real name and short name over here, but again, I use the formulas up here above, as you can see, just because I don't want to deal with having to type it in by hand. So what I do is I go over to that first formula, I click on the first time the formula is used, and this time if I drag the corner down, I actually am dragging the formula down in relationship to each record. So as I pull it down all the way to the bottom, you'll notice that I have actually copied that all the way down, and the information matches up for each record. I'll do the same thing for short name with its formula, drag it down, and voila, all of that takes place. Now let's deal with these last two columns over here that we talked about before. The first one is past policies. When you import your information, the server is going to want to know about your password. So this is talking about password policies. It says new password required equals 0. That's the first part of it. Basically, that is telling the computer that there will be no new passwords. I'm going to lock in the password that they have here and use it the entire time. You may want them to actually require new passwords, so they have to put in their own. If so, you might put a 1 right here instead of a 0, because that will let them change their password one time. And then it says if you do that, then can modify password for self, you would also want to include that, at least a 1 there. I'm going to use 0, which will not require a new password and not allow them to actually modify it in any way. I would drag down this one, but if you notice, if I do that, the last number will go down because it thinks I'm trying to create a series. So you'll notice that those numbers went down. You don't want that. So I'm going to reverse that. And instead, I'm going to select just that field and that cell, and I'm going to copy it to the next one. Then I'm going to select both of them and drag it down. That tells the computer that indeed I want the same information copied to the bottom. So I pull it down, and you'll notice they all match up, and they all need to. All right. This one doesn't have a number, so it's going to assume that it's just copying text. I'll pull it down as well, and voila. We have the basic information that we're going to need to import this file into the workgroup manager on the server and create our IDs and our home directories. Okay, so now our third and final task is going to be to export out of this spreadsheet and the student import template to a format that can be read, understood, and imported into the workgroup manager on server. So what we have to do is we're going to have to save it in another format, put it somewhere that we can actually get to it from the server. If you're doing this on your PC, I would suggest that you just save it to a flash drive, a thumb drive of some kind, and then simply take it over to your server, plug it in, and do the import off of the drive. If you're doing it on your Mac, you can, if you're putting it together on your Mac, you can also save it straight to maybe the desktop on the server as well. For our purposes here, I'm just going to save it into my home directory on my computer and then go from there. So we need only the information in this bottom file, so I'm going to, firstly I'm going to just get rid of the file that we no longer need from the registrar. I'm going to bring this up somewhat, and I'm going to save it in a format that can be read. So let's start with that. I'm going to go down to Save As, and when I do this, I'm going to get the regular dialog box that allows us to save. And a couple things have to happen here. First of all, we have to save it in the correct format. You may want to change the name as well at the top. You might want to call it Student Import 2012, 2013, whatever year it happens to be when you're doing this. And then down under Format at the bottom, I'm going to click on that and bring up all the different formats. The common format you see at the top, one of them is a CSV. Do not use this particular format. It's a little bit more specialized than that. If you'll notice, it says CSV at the end, or comma separated values. We're going to go down to these specialty formats, and down about 2/3 of the way down, you'll see comma separated and an MS-DOS comma separated. They're both just a slightly different variation on the CSV. We're going to actually need to save this in the Windows comma separated CSV, this file here. So we select that, put it here, and I'm going to save it just to my documents for the sake of having somewhere to put it for the time being. So I'm going to click Save, and it's going to tell me at this point that not everything is going to save. Now, here's the reason that we actually did this in a regular spreadsheet to begin with. That way we could keep all of our formulas. CSV do not support the formulas and the different things that we used when we put this together. So that's why we started in just a regular Excel spreadsheet. So we're going to continue and save it in this new format now that all the information is there. And now we're ready to mess with that. I'm going to, now that we've actually exported, I'm going to open up a new Finder window. And inside that Finder window, I'm going to locate the file I just exported. There it is. I'm going to open the file. So now I want to sort this according to their name, mainly because I want to find duplicates. But I need to be able to return to the order that I currently have. So I think what I'll do is create a kind of a real quick order here. I'll select both of those and drag them down, creating a ranking all the way to 11. And I then will select everything and do a very quick sort. Do a custom sort. Make sure that I have my list as headers. The column I'm going to sort by last name, followed by first name. I do a sort. And I notice really quickly here that I do have a duplicate in my short name column. This is very important that you address this. The short name will be the ID that each person will type in, of course, as their name to log on. And since Jane and John Doe here share the same first initial and last name, they're not unique when they actually log on. So their name has to be unique, their short name. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to enter by hand their second letter, just to make it easy. You can do whatever you want. You can also recreate their name altogether. Mainly because if you'll notice, I no longer have my formulas up here in these two different columns. There are no formulas anymore because when we export it as a CSV, it does not support that. So now I have unique names for every single person. If you sort everyone, even up to 100 or more people, it's very easy to find duplicates. They will be side by side and you just fix them. So now everything is fixed. I'm going to then return to the spreadsheet, select everything once again, select all the way out to the numbers that I put in. Notice it's out of order. I want to return to my original order because they were actually imported in order of classes and then last name within each class. So I'm going to resort, do another custom sort, and put in the L column that I have there, or the 1, actually that's what it is. I'm going to sort by that column once again. Notice I have now returned to 1 through 11 and I have my original order for the sort. And at this point only one thing remains before I do my final save. I need to delete this column that I used to help sort my items because it will not be imported and needed in the final CSV file. So I just select the column and delete the values, and at this point the CSV is ready to be saved finally. So I select save and continue here because I do realize that not all features are available in the CSV format. Now it is saved onto whatever media you are going to be using to pull it into the server. If you've been doing this on a PC, it's probably, hopefully, on a flash drive, a thumb drive of some sort that you can move right over. And if you did it on your Mac, you can, of course, move it in automatically. And we will cover the next procedure, and that is the actual import of this information in the next video. So I invite you now to go to the second video, Class Setup, Part 2, Importing Classes. Thank you.